Welcome to Women's Wars, a podcast series from Bern. I am Georgina Bame. For this series, I have interviewed 10 extraordinary women from countries that emerged from the former Yugoslavia. They are activists and journalists who were inspired by the wars of the 90s to take action to support the survivors and advocate for human rights. By telling their stories, these courageous women show how wars continue to have an impact on ordinary people decades after they were fought. In this episode of Beer's Women's Wars, Bosnian activist Ajna Jusic explains her work for children born of wartime rape, inspired by her own experience. Ajna Jusic says her own experience of stigma as a child born of sexual violence during the Bosnian War has inspired her advocacy work for fellow victims.
When I found out that I'm born out of wartime sexual violence, I was 15. But I think that in that time, general situation in Bosnia was a bit different in a way of how society treated survivors. So silence was one of the choices that I took, and also my mother.
Her mother was 22 and Jusic was born in 1993 in the middle of the Bosnian War. She gave birth at a safe house in the city of Zenica, run by an organization that supports women survivors of wartime sexual violence, Medica Zenica. It took a long time for Jusic to come to terms with her situation and to understand the obstacles it would create for her within society. For a while, she decided not to talk about it publicly. Nevertheless, there were constant, unavoidable reminders. She says she moved a lot as a child and as a teenager, from Zenica to Zavidovic, back to Zenica, and eventually to Sarajevo. But the same question, the question of her father's name, followed her everywhere.
What was the unique in that is that every single institution, school, universities always ask me about father's name, which is not something available in my life, which is not something that I'm comfortable to even explain. So I think that this, let's say, I was also pushed by society to start everything that I do till today, because this basic question, what is your father's name, is something that is following you in this state, highly patriarchal state, in which father's name is always priority, and we changed some of that. But still, yesterday I got that question in a hospital. So it is something that, in my case, that drives me to go on. And I think in the moment when I spend like 1 month in this state without that question, I'm gonna be like, yeah, maybe activist who can be retired and start something else.
Like I made it.
Yeah, like I made it, but still, and it's not just about being born out of rape. It's about role of the women in society. It's about role of the mother, of the single mothers who are still not treated really nice in most of the Balkan countries. And yeah, that's what drive me, and happy with my decision. Some of the things I would do differently, but lesson learned. And
Such as?
I would. So good question, yeah. But I gave you opportunity for that. Maybe
Yeah, you went
I
into
went
it.
into it. Yeah, one more lesson learned. I would be more kind to myself. I would on time understand that my health is not something that I can just go into the shop and buy it again. It's something that I need to nurse and something that I need to keep. And also, I have psychological support for all these years, and I don't want to go inside of the mindset of the status quo that we live still in Bosnia, and I don't want to question anymore myself in a way, should I do this? Is what the right move that I spoke up? Is it my mother and myself and my father okay with that? Are we safe? Because we talk about perpetrators who are free people. And it took me a lot of time and courage to, at the end of the day, which is one of the biggest tasks of every child born out of war, to open this huge dialogue with my family, open this huge dialogue with myself, in which I can accept my identity and just understand it's not something changeable, but it's something that I need to carry as a part of my life. And the lesson learned is that trauma is like happiness. um, Sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't feel it. You cannot just destroy that and tell, okay, I will leave that trauma in this street, I'm gonna go in another street. It's not like that. And also, huge lesson learned, um, and that I would love to that maybe before I did that differently. But also, what I learned is that if you shared your personal story, your trauma, and you saw my barrier on the beginning, you always have to keep piece of your trauma for yourself, because you need to have something to heal, to nurse, to hug in the moment of your maturity, of your in some point of your life. So all these things I learned in this adventure on the way, they are damaging in some point of your life, but then thanks to the knowledge, thanks to the support, and thanks to, you know, my mental health, nurturing my mental health, I'm now in a good place. But I cannot lie to you or anyone who gonna read this, that it was smooth. It was not so smooth. It was so, you know, a roller coaster story. That's it. That's it.
Jusic is now president of a Sarajevo-based NGO, the Forgotten Children of War, which has successfully lobbied for the adoption of laws granting legal recognition and rights towards children. She took on the role at the tender age of 22 in 2016. 2 years later, in July 2018, she gave her first coming out interview in Bosnia to Deutsche Welle, speaking about her background openly. It was only when the video was published that she realized
that there is no way back. And now everyone knows, and even those people that I lied before in the schools and somewhere, about the father identity, everything went out with the clear information and clear truth about that. So what is specific is that even when we started to talk about our identity, people still blame our mothers, not us. So this is so hard, so aimed into this discrimination of the women. Like, okay, a child is not guilty, but she was there, she did this, and it was maybe the hardest thing to take, to understand, hardest thing to face with, because you know that she is not guilty and they are still trying to make her guilty, even when you spoke up and you gave the story and you gave the reality and how much she was important in, for example, in my life, to survive, to fight with the society, to survive in kind of this society.
only in July 2022, Bosnia and Herzegovina adopted a law recognizing children born of wartime sexual violence. Jusic and her Forgotten Children of War organization are now focused on implementing the 2022 law throughout Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as providing free legal services to children born of wartime sexual violence and survivors of rape. She says that her association has members from the country's different ethnic groups whose mothers are survivors of sexual violence committed by members of different ethnic armies.
This law came 3 decades after the war, and this state never did any kind of registration of the children. And in this moment, for some children, it's really hard to prove that they are even born out of rape. There is no evidence, or witnesses are dead, or they don't have communication with the mother. There is a bit struggle in this process, but uh, for us as association, we have to try everything, and we have to establish these procedures for everyone. In Republika Srpska, we still do not have a law that recognize children born out of rape, and that's our aim. Also, as we are multi-ethnic association, we have members from the different ethnic groups whose mothers survived from the different ethnic armies, and for us it's really important to put a language and a idea of human rights on this topic, not just ethnic. And ethnic is not important. Like, it is important that we have understanding that children rights are human rights, and that we are, for God's sake, obligated to make this a space for them in the laws.
Thank you for listening. You can find more installments of our Women's War series in our website, balkaninsight.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.